All right. Hello, everybody. Good day and welcome to another Hack NG Congress. This is 7.0, and we're happy to have each and every one of you connecting with us via Facebook on today's Congress. So you would agree with me that living in Nigeria, one issue you get to face amongst many, many others is the issue of power. And Nigeria as a country not only generates its own power in form of electricity, hydroelectricity to be precise, mainly from the Kainji Dam and so many other dams. She also supplies electricity to countries like Togo, the Republic of Benin, and Niger. Now, one would expect that such a given country would have constant power supply, right? Well, unfortunately, this isn't the case, as the children of the baker do actually lack bread. Today, I have with me Emmanuel King 14 again. You're welcome to the Congress 14, and we'll be discussing Nepa and the power problem. Emmanuel King, you're welcome to the Congress. Nice to have you back.
Um, so much. I'm happy to be back again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Emmanuel King is the head of the education team at Hack NG, and he will be discussing with me today Nepa and the power dilemma. So straight off, let's get right in the way. Um, I would like to hit the nail on the head. 14. Is it possible to have 24 hours a day power supply in Nigeria? Do you think constant power supply is possible in Nigeria? Let's be direct.
Wow. So is this so hypothetically, yes, everything is possible. Uh, at least to the constraints of uh, human ability. Or we say things that are not impossible. Things that are not impossible are like things that are impossible are like maybe disappearing might be impossible. And that's not, you cannot even say that's impossible because you're not sure if technology will go that way. But like having constant power supply in Nigeria does not it is not as near as impossible as disappearing. If that's the kind of impossible we're talking about, right? But then if you think about possibility in the sense of the constraints of what we currently have, then currently at the present state of the power industry, I do not think there's the capacity to have um, constant power supply um, in Nigeria at, at the current capacity.
Well,
But
well,
it's something
well,
that can happen if we mitigate resources
definitely,
correctly.
definitely, I agree with you. I mean, so many other countries already have this constant power supply. I mean, we talk about countries that recorded 100% electricity supply in the year 2019. Talk about countries like Luxembourg. And it was even, amazing to see that not one, not two, not even three countries had 100%, electricity supply when that research was carried out. And according to Statista.com, we have about seven countries that had 100% electricity supply in the year 2019: Bahrain, Trinidad and Tobago, Taiwan, Chile, South Korea, Finland, Singapore, Hong Kong, Luxembourg, and Iceland. I mean, I see Nigeria getting there in the nearest future, and we'll be discussing steps to go in there. So, next question, Emmanuel King 14. How important is electricity to development?
To the come
To
again.
development.
So I was here when we spoke about infrastructure and hold up and free road flow. And if we can agree that that's important to the economy of Nigeria in terms of the better your road flow, the more people are able to get to work, the more of a productive workforce you have, then we can agree that the more access to power, right, that you have all around the country, right, the more you'll be able to have people that are able to compete right, on a world stage. And I'm an education person, so I would like to look at it from an education standpoint. More constant power supply means you have students that are able to use their laptops 24/7, right? More constant power supply is you have people that are not restricted by night time and daytime. So you have people that have the ability to plan their day across 24 hours, right? Unlike what is we are in Nigeria, we have limited ourselves to within the daytime, in the real sense, right? Because you can't run your journey into the midnight, right? I'm in a place currently where I can imagine reading at 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., right, would be like for me. You understand? And I'm not, it's possible, right? But then you're burning candles. And if you talk about burning candles, you're talking about global warming, and you're talking about climate change. Or then you're using some kind of torchlight, which is not good for your eyes, right? If you want what you want as a country, right, is to create a city that is a hub, a continuous hub, a lively city, right? Because it's that kind of city that is economically capable, right? Economically stable, economically vibrant. If you want that kind of city, then you want to have that kind of the kind of electricity that kind of city has. And the kind of electricity that kind of city has is constant, regular power supply, constant, regular, affordable. Let's add affordable to the list, because what you want is people not paying sky high rocket prices for electricity, because then you make electricity something for the rich and not something, and the poor
No,
man does not.
we're getting there.
It becomes a luxury. So is essential, right, to building a nation that will compete at the level of the world. If you say you want a nation to improve, to develop in the world today, right, you cannot remove electricity from the equation, because there's no right now there's no nation without power. Power um, is one of the things holding is one of the major deliberations in the politics of the world, right? Oh, how do we make green energy? How do we make for better means of getting power? How do we have more power than our neighbor? Or how do we have more power resources than the other person? To push forward innovation, to push forward your policies, to push forward development, right? Power is essential. And a lot of things are still mechanized, um, as opposed to electronic in Nigeria. And a lot of things cannot be done, right? Because there are processes that involve having that constant supply of electricity. And any failure in electricity would drastically end those processes. And I'm talking about processes like big oil refineries. It will create huge losses, any shortage of electricity, and then you realize we cannot perform all these tasks because of that lack in power, right? And so it's something we should start looking at investing into to create the kind of change I want to. But it may be number 3 on the list.
I'm guessing education is number 1 on that list. Well. But there has been so many efforts to revamp the power sector of Nigeria, and we're talking about the AFDB pumping as much as $410 million into the transmission projects. We're talking about even the Nigerian government himself rolling out about $5.9 billion, for this.
For them, it's all about pumping in money. But that's the problem we have in Nigeria. One of the problems we have in our government. Our government fails to realize that there's a difference between actually getting something done and just putting money to it. Like there's a very large, there's a big line that divides those two things. Like you're not doing something by putting money or budgeting money to something, right? Like nothing gets done if you just say, oh, we're going to allot. It's that everything for something to change requires active involvement, right? And active deliberate decisions regarding that thing, right? And you're just putting in money to get, what are you putting money to do? Like if you put money into having a bad building, right? If I put 1 billion into creating a mud house, a very, very muddy house, I can create a very, very muddy house that is disastrous, right? And I'll just keep putting money into creating more mod. And that's what you're doing. You're pumping money into a system that's not working or has failed for the last, since before we know, right? Since electricity became so ubiquitous that every single normal nation was having constant power supply, right? Since that time, you have been pumping money into the same system that's continually filled, right? And you're not thinking about doing anything different, right? And so, yes, you are pumping money, but you're not getting anything done. So I like to think that pumping money is not just enough. There are specific things that government needs to do to change.
Thank you very much. That's true. So yes, you talked about you delved a bit into when power started. So let's go back a bit through the history books. All right. In 1972, the Electricity Corporation of Nigeria and the Niger Dams Authority, that's the ECN and the NBA, they formed what is commonly known as NEPA. That is the Nigeria
Nepa,
Electricity
that's
Power
the
Authority.
problem.
Right.
They have changed.
So NEPA was
The
formed in
thing is, the
1970.
problem, the funny thing about this discussion is that NEPA, I'm saying this because I believe that more people than just Nigerians are watching this. NEPA has changed, right? From NEPA,
Yes,
from
yes.
after a very long time, right?
All
NEPA
right.
has changed. Like, it's no longer NEPA. It has been,
Yeah.
it became PACN. And from
Yeah,
PACN, it
I
moved
was
into
going there. I was going there. Just
this movie.
let's get it. In
Everybody still calls it
2005,
NEPA.
NEPA,
Yeah.
we are sure. In 2005, NEPA became PHC, and that's the Power Holding Company of Nigeria. Right. And in 2013, November 2013, the Power Holding Company of Nigeria was privatized. And then we had the private companies coming into generation and distribution. It gave rise to what we call the discos, the distribution companies. And having lived under PHCN, Fortune, and the discos, would you say there was any like significant change or increase or development in the power sector of Nigeria?
Um, I don't know if this is still the case, right? But discos were doing better. Whether the but you can't challenge the fact that discos were doing better, and that's always is always kudos to the private industry, right? Because the private industry in Nigeria is real Nigerian people, right? That understand real Nigerian benefits, right? And understand what business is and how you have a customer and you have, although they also do a lot for their profit. And I think that's where they may be getting it all wrong, right? Because for me, what I witnessed, the change I witnessed at the time in Benin City was we were having, there was no coherence in our power supply, right? During the whole PACN saga. They were not NEPA again, they were then PACN, but everybody was calling them PACN. And because maybe PACN was not a good name, because why you call yourself power holding? It's like you're withholding the power. But
I don't think that was the concept.
I mean,
right?
it's something like
Go
that.
on.
And and then you're like PACN, there was no coherence, and then it came into this BEDC that was them for Benin, right? And that they were one of the discos, and different, the way it works now is different states and different regions have their different. I think BEDC is working for Benin and Delta. There's one for Abuja area, and there's like these private companies, right? I don't even know who is running the private companies, like who is actually in charge of those private industries, which is something that I think should be told. People should know, like, who can we hold accountable in society as to you are the one in charge of BDC, in terms of you're not just the CEO, you're the one collecting that big money in the end. So when they came on board, they started they started doing this ration thing, this 3 hours, this thing. So where like it was this kind of thing where you could know exactly when you have lights or you have power supply at your house. It wasn't 24 hours, right? I think it was more like half or 1/3 of the time, which is terrible, But at the time, it was something that we could appreciate. because it gave us more structure. It was moving business and activity further, right? And just that little step. So I think I saw more innovation with BEDC than with them. So I cannot say that there was no change. Where there is no change is the fact that these prices for the electricity just keep going high, right? You're not seeing any. Yesterday I was on the ground and I was seeing all these sky high prices for electricity. This person having this amount of this thing, this person having this amount of this person have ridiculous electricity bills, right? And that's one of the things that you have to deal with when it comes to private industry, because they will have to make their profit. And if things go high, right, for them, they will increase the cost of whatever they're putting out. And when they increase the cost of what they're putting out, who does it affect? It affects the citizens. So they're doing a better job, but they're making the cost higher. And so everything is we're still wrapped up in that mess in terms of nothing is just moving forward. Still like tango.
Well, I would have to turn off my video now. It's getting dark here, and well, there's no power. Thank you, Nepa. All right, so let's move on to the next question. There are places in Nigeria, yeah, where there are constant power supply, right? Talking about I remember the founder of the Living Faith Church. He keeps saying that at his place, Kenaland, where he is, there's 24 hours power supply now. What do you think is the secret behind this should I call it development now? Or what's their secret behind the 24-hour supply in certain regions and the disparity in others?
How do I first of all, first things first. I don't think there's any place in Nigeria that has that you can see. So you would say they have. It's just like when you say what's the name? America is not on that list that you gave, right? On that
Yeah,
list
I
of
think they're let me go through the list again. But not on 100%, right?
exactly.
We have
So,
yes.
You understand that
United States has 98.6%.
So maybe we can say that a place like Kenaland, that the church industry or some buildings, some large building complexes, some large businesses, maybe Dangote Cement or something like that. I'm sure there are places like that that do have a huge level or a huge percentage of constant power supply. That said, it's not difficult in terms of I don't think it's difficult to pull off, right? I think if you're a university, right, it shouldn't be hard to create your own power. A university with money, a private institution, right? It shouldn't be so much work to create your own power sources.
So you're saying money is the driving force, or
it shouldn't be so much work to create your own power sources, right? And the truth is, no matter how unskilled you are, if you mitigate enough resources to a small area, right, then you will succeed. How do I say it? If you say, okay, let's forget about the rest of Nigeria and let's focus these electricity resources on powering Benin. Benin would definitely have 24 hours light, right? And okay, maybe not 24 hours. There'll still be all these failures in systems and all these things, but you get what I'm driving at, right? And that is if you're able to put in the money, right? And you're able to put in you're able to mitigate the people in terms of engineers, right? You have a university, you have people, right? I guess like you're able to mitigate enough engineers, right? Then you should be able to do that. And yes, Nigeria can really learn from that, right? That it will take a greater amount of mitigation of resources to actually build our power system, right? That it will take us, it will take us more, it will have to be a more active, involved process, right? It's not something that we can passively do in terms of just have the institutions, just have the structure with all the bureaucracy and everything, let them try to do it. It's not something that we can passively do. It's something that the government has to put at the front burner, right? Has to mitigate all the resources, all the powerful minds, all the skilled labor, right? All the people that know how to do this thing, right? Come together and start pushing for the best, right? In terms of power supply, right? All around the country. Start mitigating enough, not just resources, right? But the skill, right? And be strategic about it in terms of who are you assigning to what? Um, how you constructing these industries or these institutions so that you're having people you're having structures that are maintainable, right? You're having structures that are checkable, right? You're having structures that are up to date in terms of where the world is currently, right? And these are the things that the government needs to look into actively, right? As for other institutions, I feel like it's not. I don't like to think of it as the biggest deal. Yeah.
Well, I think we need to actually then sit down and look at how all of these institutions are able to achieve this that they has achieved, because it's no mean feat. I mean, yes, you may say that with having the finances they can be able to put that on, but how to get it working for the time it's been working. I mean, it's no mean feat, for real. It's no mean feat. I think I read up that they installed a power generating plant,
Yep.
a power plant there. Yeah, so
Yep.
I mean, these are things that if a private institution can do that for his say estate, I think a local government can do that for the individual communities.
Let's be clear though. The local government is not as rich as the institution you're referring to.
Well,
No, I'm just telling you,
well, that
just putting out there that the local government has 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 a lot more to deal with in terms of road structures and all those things. And they don't even, what does the local government? The local government has no power in Nigeria. Let's be really clear on that. Like, local government does not really have the power that and the money or the resources to do to make anything happen in Nigeria, right? They cannot do roads. The local government does not have control of doing roads in Nigeria. They cannot do roads. It's outside their and so
jurisdiction, power distribution, all of that.
what
Yeah.
power does the government really have? Right? If you want to do that, you're talking about the state, and then you think about the concentration, right, of the money. That's what you have to think about. If the institution you're talking about had to do that for its branches all around the world, would it actually be the same? It had to be a uniform. You do that. You create that power for all your branches all around the world. Is it the same? You understand? And so it's
I
now.
think when you look at the institution in itself, not every branch has the same structure that the headquarters has. You get,
No,
so I
yes,
think it
definitely,
necessitates that
definitely, definitely.
they have such and not the branch. But I feel like I mean we can bring this to a more
So,
how do I say
so
compact
also,
region.
we must also look at it in terms of leadership. We are yet to see a
Right.
leadership in Nigeria that has a that has first of all the courage, right, and then the grit in terms of I want to see this happen and it must happen in my time, right? In Nigeria, that can push that kind of um, um, that can push that kind of progress. We need a government that will
Well,
come up, right, and have less ambiguous plans and say, in my time, we must get this electricity thing right. We must, right, and that might mean an everyday meeting with the person in charge, right? We must
all
get this
right.
right, right. That might mean pushing a lot of people away. That might mean a lot of people will lose their jobs, and a lot of more skilled people will come in. A lot might mean a lot of revamping, but we must
But
get this.
let's talk about solutions now, right? Let's talk about getting it right. How would you look at alternative sources of power? We already generate electricity from water, hydro sources, but Nigeria is blessed with sun. It's blessed with solar power. So how would you talk about alternative sources of power in solving the problem of power in Nigeria?
Okay, so very great question. Nigeria is blessed with, I think, everything that you can say produces power. We are blessed with the petroleum resources, right? In excess. Although we don't refine it, and so then you have that dilemma of having less oil and having that catastrophe. Yeah, that by the side. But blessed with wind, right? We don't have the kind of wind speeds, right, that some places have. But even at that, I've been to places that do not have that kind of wind speed, right? And still use a lot of wind turbines and are generating a lot of electricity, right, from wind power, right? You go to these their major highways, right, and you see all these wind turbines lined around across the road. And I ask myself, well, if we have enough of these lined around the country, right? Because I know that we have some of that lined in some places in Abuja, I think.
We could really take advantage of this Hamatan.
Exactly. There's a lot of, there are weathers that we can really take advantage of, right? During the Hamatan, almost all through the year, right? There are those Sahara winds, on those river winds that are helping us generate that. So the wind is there. Hydroelectricity, right, is something that, in fact, I think that's our major source of the whole electricity thing. And it's something I don't think we're using well enough. And I think the problem there is not the fact that the technology or the idea or it's just a maintenance check problem and all those things. Like there has to be I really think there has to be a more critical engineering look at that entire hydroelectric system, right? To know where are the consistent faults coming up, right? Where are the consistent faults coming up? Where are the consistent problems coming up, right? These problems have to be analyzed. We need to know what are the problems we're having, right, as an industry. Then there's the whole solar thing, right? That's like we are the equator, and this solar energy is just going to wait. And Nigeria is not ahead of the whole solar race thing, and there's no reason we cannot be, right? There are houses that are powered by that in Nigeria and stuff like that. So yeah, if it's a matter of energy resources or places to get the energy from, Nigeria does have those places, right? What we need now is to have somebody that's innovative, or have innovative people come in and have the courage to say, let's do this thing, right? Let's bring all these resources together to make the industry work.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I believe Nigeria is blessed with enough resources to make this work, more than enough even to make this work. And I hope that we get it right in the coming years. Now, Emmanuel King, I would like to ask briefly earlier, we talked about the private sector here being involved and how that is going to tell on the customers, that's the citizens, as they would have to I'd just like you to further push on that. Do you think, or would you rather consider money to be a problem in the power and the Nepa and power dilemma? Would you say money is a problem for it? And I would like you to look at that from two angles. One, if the citizens have to pay more for constant electricity supply, what would you think would be their reaction to that? And also, if the government has to pay more for constant electricity supply?
If I get your question right, you're talking about how money, right, influences this whole thing. So
exactly.
Yeah, so like what you don't want is to have the whole, because I talked about how the problem with the whole privatization thing is you privatize, right? And then you're having this skyrocketing of the whole cost of electricity. Electricity bills are coming and people are crying, or people cannot pay, or some people just cut the light, understand? Or people have to commit crimes. Some people have to, right, to have constant power supply because you're having electricity bills that are above the minimum wage of the normal person in Nigeria, right? That are far above the minimum wage of the normal person in Nigeria, right? And you're giving that electricity bills to somebody that earns that minimum wage, right? When I was um when I was back home, right? I used to stay in a 2-room apartment, right? And at the time, as a home, we're earning 30K, right? For example, right? And then you bring an electricity bill, right, of 10K. You have taken one third of the livelihood of the family. And you ask yourself, like, so are we using the thing for anything? So we actually cut the light because we took away the power supply. So like
Okay.
you're not serving the needs of your populace, right? If you have ridiculous bills, right? And it's government's responsibility to service that need for its population, right? That said, right, the government doesn't also want to be paying skyrocket high prices for electricity, right? And they don't need to, right? They really don't need to, right? Because you can have a and I hope we will be able to talk more extensively on a business model, I guess. But you can always have a business model where, because people are paying, right? And so you can have it, you can you can construct a good business model where the whole power industry is self-sufficient in itself, right? The payment is helping you get the resources to provide the electricity, and the electricity is helping the people who in turn pay for the electricity, and like that. Like, you have to make a working cycle, right? A working cycle of this thing. And the way to make that working cycle, right, is to find people, right, that are able to provide those resources for the electricity at prices that are accessible. In terms of, we have all these things available in Nigeria. Um, we have all these things accessible in Nigeria. We have the whole wind. We talked about all those things, right? If we can start using those resources, right, then we'll definitely be getting these things at cheaper rate, right? The problem with oil and stuff like that, and is the whole oil saga that maybe one of these days in Congress we'll also talk about. And the problem with hydroelectricity becomes the whole different parties involved, everybody looking for um, their own way around the money and stuff like that. So these are things that you can start nailing, right? I think a good audit of the entire industry, right? Finding out where we are about spending too much, or how we can actually spend less by patronizing someone else, right, for some particular resource or particular maintenance, or latching on to citizens or even universities or something, right? Make us to find these resources that we need to maintain this whole industry, right? Within the government structure, within the private industry, or within wherever, and then the whole system will be able to be self-sufficient in itself, right? And you will not have to kill any one party. You will not have to kill the government to provide for the electricity. You have to kill the citizens to provide for the electricity. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. During Congress, one of us just walked in. He is Idoko Mubarak. Idoko Mubarak, you're welcome. Idoko Mubarak happens to be the head of our infrastructure team here at Hack NG. And he's been working on different infrastructure. He was here last month and talked about the road network in Nigeria and how to get it better. And we're happy to have Idoko here again, joining us on today's Congress. Vidoko Mubarak is a sophomore and an electrical at the Dartmouth College, Hanover, New Hampshire in the US. And he is an electrical engineering and computer science student. And currently, like I said, he's the head of the Triangle team, leading us on the infrastructure. You're welcome, Mubarak. I would like to direct this question to you, Mubarak. Can you hear me? Yeah, Mubarak, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Nice to see you again. So Mubarak, having discussed the power dilemma, I would like to know, what would you consider as the way forward? What can individuals do to help the power situation in Nigeria? What can non-governmental organizations do? Yes, we already have people from the United States helping out, Power Africa helping out to make electricity supply as available to everyone in sub-Saharan Africa. But what can individuals in Nigeria do to help the power situation in Nigeria?
Well, well, I think, I mean, my natural instinct is to say that the private sector is the best solution to our power issues because there are more incentives to compete, and it's just better to have independently owned energy generation. And the quick example I can give is like if you live in Jos, then you either use Nepa or Nesco, and Nepa is the Nepa is the government-owned general electricity body. I think now it's JEDC, and then Nesco is privately owned, and it's only in Jos. And generally, Nesco has better light than Nepa. It's just they just have better light, and then they have light for more steady periods than Nepa does. They also have their own problems, but generally they have better light. And I think one strong reason for that is, apart from the fact that they are not government owned, they also serve a smaller amount of people. So that could be another thing that contributes to that. My problem with just leaving the private sector though, and just having like small independent electricity generation companies is what is happening in Texas. So I think the US has had an act to nationalize power generation. So you had the East Power Generation Company, I have the Western Power Generation Company, and all states use those companies to get power. Apart from Texas, Texas has its own electric grid because he wanted to stay independent. And then when things went south, then everybody got screwed. So that's a potential problem I'm seeing with that. So I'll say what I recommend then is probably more overlapping. So I think the biggest problem with Texas is that it's too independent, that even though the power grid could not keep up, it also cannot rely on, it can borrow power from the Eastern or the Western power generation companies. So then I think that the best solution would be having a combination of like Nepa and Nesco. Like I know some people doing jobs, and if there's no light on Nepa, then they switch to Nesco, and if there's no light on Nesco, then they switch to Nepa. So then they kind of have light almost throughout the day. Except Nepa and Nesco are just really screwed. So I think that my first advice would be to normal citizens, right? There isn't a lot you can do, but I think a good starting point might be if you can figure out how to provide green energy for yourself, if you can figure out how to provide sustainable electricity for yourself, right? Then I think the next step will be, okay, can you figure out how to provide that for your neighbor, and can you figure out how to provide that for the next person? And can you scale your company to be bigger and then provide for more people? That could be one potential solution, because I'm realizing that relying on Nepa and Nesco might not be relying on Nepa especially might not be a very good solution, because I mean, they are privately run now, but they just have a lot of government in them, and the government itself is not very responsible. So if you want to change those institutions themselves, then you're looking to changing the people who run it. You're looking to get rid of whatever deals they have with the government. You're looking to get rid of just a lot of corrupt individuals. And as a normal person, you don't really have there's like very little you can do in those spaces except to walk your way through the ranks and decide that, okay, yeah, I'm going to do things a little differently. But on a smaller scale, I think that if you can provide power for yourself and then provide power for other people and gradually scale, and I'm sure that people can ingeniously gradually provide power for different people. Then if that works, then you can scale and then build a company that provides power for a small subset of people. And if you grow big enough, let's say you provide power for the entire state. So like 50% of the state relies on you and they get sustainable power. Then that's a good thing. And then I think that will also provide incentives for the power generation companies on ground to pick up from where they left off. But that's it. I think the bigger problem in Nigeria is not the companies. I feel like we just don't have enough of infrastructure to provide power for everyone, or we're greatly underutilizing what we have. So we have a gigantic population, and I don't know how many megawatts we produce per year, but I don't think we produce enough to sustain that population. So I guess that what happens then is that the power is rationed. And so we're not producing enough, just like deep corruption. So even the fees that are paid are not spent to adequately renovate and sustain the infrastructure. And also the infrastructure itself is also very sloppy, because we have power systems that give way in the rain, then that just suggests that it's like very sloppy. And people are worried, hoping that the pole doesn't fall down or the transformer doesn't go off, because if the transformer goes off, then it take a couple of weeks before anything is done about it, and they won't have lights for that period of time. So I just think that first, we are not providing enough power to fully sustain our needs, so we are forced to ration most of it. And then next, we have a very sloppy national grid that it's just first it's like poorly monitored. So you have this gigantic system where I don't think that the people that even own the companies or lead the companies know where they start or where they end. It's like, it just feels like it's very arbitrary. And then you have people who tap the light illegally and all that stuff. So the power grid itself is like, it's not very organized.
Thank you very much, Mubbie. We've learned a lot. We've learned a lot. And just as a word of closing, I would like to ask both Mubbie and Fortune, do you think Nigeria should pursue alternative sources, and the resultant effect on jobs and all of that? Is it worth it? Is it worth it? Is it worth pursuing? Looking at all of that, so you can have just a minute to give your thoughts on that, and then we'll wrap up Congress for today. Fortune, please go first.
So is it worth it? So the thing is, if you are if you're getting into other sources of electricity, right, you're not removing jobs, right? And I don't think any of us is saying that at this point for Nigeria, I don't think any of us is saying that Nigeria should divest from any particular source of energy. I may be wrong, but I think if you're doing anything, you're only adding to the workforce, right? And you're only adding to the utilization of more natural resources, right, to create more power. So in the end, I fail to see how it can really go south. It will be more. It may turn out to be more strong if it's going to be the government that will run it. It will be more structures for a government that is already saddled with so much that they cannot lift, right? But if you encourage more private institutions, right? Like I think Mubbie said, more private people to come in and take on projects in terms of wind, right, in this area, or this in this area, or for just a small locality, right? Take on those kind of projects. You see, what you are getting is more companies, and more companies means more jobs, right? And more jobs means more people migrating into the middle class in society, and that's always a good thing for society. Yeah.
I think for me, I think generally you want to look at where the world is, and you want to be like a couple of years ahead. And most of the world is going towards renewable sources of energy, because we've realized that the way we generate power is not very sustainable, and it is doing a lot of harm to the environment. So then it's like it's just smarter to generate energy alternatively in green, sustainable ways. But that's it. I don't think Nigeria generates a lot of energy more sustainably. I don't think we use natural gas to generate energy. I know we use coal, but I don't think we use natural gas to generate energy. And I know that we use natural gas.
We use petroleum.
Okay, cool. Well, so if we use petroleum and we use coal, then those are the energy sources that we have to be shifting away from. But I feel like our dams, even though dams can be very inefficient, but I feel like our dams still have a little bit of a place in the future. So I think those, but I mean, generally though, if like private companies, and if Nigerians can generate energy alternatively, it's like a huge incentive in the world. Like I've heard like Americans talk about Norway and other countries that are doing all these green things. It's like, those are the models. Nigeria can become a model too, if we're able to figure out how to generate energy more sustainably. It's going to invite more companies, because I think that, like, if a company can brag about being carbon neutral or carbon negative, then that's like a huge incentive. So if our energy grid is sustainable, then countries might want to come in and tap in from that sustainable energy, so that they just add that to their brag sheet and that kind of stuff. So I just think it's the smart thing to do right now. There's no point. There's no point trying to rely on what clearly we shouldn't be relying on. I think that Nigeria relies too much on petroleum, and in my opinion, I really wish like we just forget about it. I mean, it has its place. Like, we need plastics and we need jet fuel and blah blah blah. But I think it's just time to like
Move on.
It's time to move past it. not because it's not good, but because, like, the future is calling, and
Really?
even this is hard. It's just time to like use less petroleum and use less burning, essentially.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mubarak, for showing up. Thank you, Emmanuel King Fortune. It's been a wonderful session today, discussing Nepa and the power dilemma. And we've come up with a handful of solutions that I believe if we work them out, we'll be seeing a better power supply in Nigeria. And who knows, in the coming years, we could be ranking number one, on power supply, just like other countries have. Iceland,
For
Luxembourg, we could
Minister
be
of
up there
Power.
too. Right. So thank you. Want to appreciate all our online viewers and those who dropped a comment or two on the Facebook page. I want to encourage you to like our Facebook page and follow us on Instagram. On Facebook, we are HackNG, and on Instagram, we are hack__NG. So do well to click the follow button on our IG and our Facebook. Thank you for staying with us to the end of the Congress. Special shout out to my main person, Okuye. I don't like pronouncing the full name, but you know Okoye, Yakub Dari, Emmanuelo, Daniel Guzzi. Thank you guys for being on the Congress today. Until we meet next time, I remain Olafisoye Oluwatosin, signing out.